Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Thanks for logging on to this forecast update today, folks. Got a mess headed our way for Sunday. First of all, let me just say it feels good to be back in the swing of things. I've been down fighting the flu this week, starting to be on the road to recovery, I think. So thanks, everyone, for the well wishes and concern. Hopefully I'll be able to get back into a little bit more of a regular pattern just in time for a potential winter storm to impact us. By winter storm, I don't think this is going to be a big snow event for us. If we even see snow out of this, there's maybe a chance on the backside of the system. But it looks like we could see a little bit of icing concerns, which we'll talk about here in a second. First off, let's take a look at where it's at right now. There is the developing storm system down in Texas right now. This will all push our way over the next 24 hours or so that by this time tomorrow afternoon, it'll be knocking on our doorstep. And later in the afternoon, we'll start to arrive. The question is going to be, is it going to end up with sleet? Is it going to be freezing rain? Is it going to be just plain rain? Well, let's talk about the options, because the reality is all of those are really on the table right now. We take a look at temperatures. We can see it's cold. We got plenty of cold air in the place right now with temperatures down here at the at the event itself. Pretty mild with temperatures here in the 30s and the 20s down here. But as we zoom in, temperatures around here are just downright cold. We're sitting in the mid to upper teens across the area, and we're only going to go to a high temperature today in the low to mid 20s around the area. So it's going to be a downright cold day, and with that cold air firmly locked in place, the one thing that we got to understand, cold air is very dense, and it does not like to get pushed out of the way as fast as what the modeling would indicate for us, and that could be a real concern. All right, let me show you why. Let's go into the modeling and let's just back this up. Let me show you what the modeling says as far as precipitation type. Let me go with the most aggressive down to the least aggressive so that I can present all options to you. The Canadian by far is the most aggressive. We start off into the Sunday afternoon time frame, and it overtakes us with a freezing rain type of a setup. And it just keeps us in freezing rain really for the duration event, maybe mixing in with some light snow on the backside of the system on Monday as it exits. But it would accumulate a pretty significant icing type of event if this were right. All right. If we take a look at the GFS, though, the GFS is a different story. Starts us out as freezing rain, but actually starts to transition some of us into just plain rain. Now, what's the difference between freezing rain and plain rain and all that? We ought to talk about that too to give you an idea about that. Here's a graphic the Weather Service, the National Weather Service, put out a few years back. I think they've updated to a newer one since then, but I like this one. And it just kind of helps us determine what that is. And it's all about the warm air and the warm air up in the atmosphere. Now, I said warm air is coming our way. We're going to get this warm air surging up from the south, but I also said that cold air is much denser. Doesn't like to be moved out of the way as fast as warm air. So what's going to happen as this south wind starts to kick in and the warm air surges our way up towards the north, that warm air is actually going to ride over the top of the cold air, and that's exactly what you see here. You see cold air down at the surface. You see warm air starting to override that cold air, and depending on how thick that warm air layer is in the atmosphere is going to determine what your precipitation type is. So snow, you know what snow is, that powdery stuff that you can make snowmen out of. Well, every precipitation type up in the clouds, it all starts out as snow eventually up in there, but it depends on the warm air in the atmosphere. So if there's no warm air up there, then it'll all fall and it'll stay as snow. If there's a very thin layer of warm air in the atmosphere, what will happen is that it will melt into rain, but then as it goes on its way back down, the warm air is very shallow and the cold air at the surface still is very thick, so it'll actually refreeze before it hits the surface, and so it refreezes into what we call sleet, which would be ice pellets, in other words. Freezing rain, on the other hand, it starts out as snow up here, and it is a sufficiently thick warm layer so that it melts it. The cold layer is very thin, so it can't refreeze before it hits contact. It falls to the surface, and it turns, because we are freezing at the surface, it turns into an icy glaze on everything. It's a solid sheet of ice. So we call freezing rain. The difference between freezing rain and regular rain, the difference is regular rain is it's above freezing at the surface. That's the only difference. They're both rain, but in freezing rain, we're at 32 degrees or below here at the surface, so it freezes on contact. With regular rain, you're above freezing, and so it doesn't freeze on contact. That's really the only difference. Freezing rain is by far the biggest concern, although we may see a little bit of sleet mixed in. Doesn't look like a big snow event for us, folks. That looks like that is going to stay to the north of us, all right? So the GFS, again, it transitions us from a little bit of a rain freezing rain into a regular rain event. Now, what's the difference here? Well, the difference is going to be about 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's it. So right now there's plenty of discrepancies in the modeling. By far the warmest of the modeling is the high resolution NAM. I can actually show you a future radar product on that and get you an idea. The NAM actually starts us out into the afternoon hours, but watch this. It actually warms pretty significantly most of us in southern Indiana out into just plain rain, and then it doesn't really accumulate much of anything. I don't buy this model. I'm not trusting that as far as I can throw it, honestly, guys. I think this is by far out in left field compared to all the others. Do I think that we're going to stay off freezing rain the entire time? That's very questionable as well. The GFS may be a little bit more in line with what's right just by sort of being the moderate of those solutions. Let me show you why. Let's talk about temperatures. All right, so let's look at the GFS and you can get an idea of temperature profiles at the surface. All right, we know we're going to be warm enough to be rain in the upper atmospheres, but what's it going to fall at the surface? Well, the GFS warms us up into the mid-30s. Here along the Ohio River for Sunday afternoon, we're still below freezing from about Bloomington on to the north. By the time, this is for 1 in the afternoon, by the way, by the time 7 p.m. that night hits, we are below freezing pretty much everywhere. So it would be a freezing rain event if that were the case. By the time 1 in the evening, 1 in the morning comes again on Monday morning. Look at this. We're above freezing just slightly here right along the Ohio River, near freezing here at the Huntingburg Airport, and then below freezing just slightly as you go a little bit further north up here into Bloomington and Indianapolis. So, well, what you can see is if freezing rain, you got to be 32 or below in order to get freezing rain. If you're 33 or above, you're going to get plain rain. Guess what, folks? The margin of error here is only 1 or 2 degrees. So if the models are wrong in what it perceives with its temperatures here, then the precipitation type can completely change. That's how on the fence we are literally for this event. And then if we take a look at the Canadian, you can see exactly what you can see why it stays more of a freezing rain type of event. It never warms us up into the mid-30s. It takes us up pretty much at freezing or below freezing across the entire area. Quickly moves us even into the 20s as you head down into the evening hours, and sort of keeps us that way through the duration of the event. So this would lead to an all freezing rain significant type of icing event. I'm not sure that I buy that. I think that we will have enough of a warm surge that some of that warm air will funnel its way down into the atmosphere and warm us up above freezing a little bit, at least along the Ohio River. But the further north you go from the Ohio River, the more in danger you're going to be, especially where that snowpack was already so heavy from earlier in the week. Well, by the time you head up towards that, folks, that's where you're going to get into the trouble. So basically, a county or two along the Ohio River may see some rain out of this, but I think most of the rest of us are going to stay in pretty much a danger zone. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye out on this. How much could end up accumulating? Here's what the GFS thinks. Orange is sleet. The pink over here is freezing rain. So you can see the heaviest freezing rain totals will stay up to the north here around the Indianapolis area, and that was where you could end up potentially having maybe 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. Down here, really, for the rest of us, you can see that it's showing maybe about 1/100th of an inch or so at best. Nothing too big with this, but you see that there's some chance of some light sleet around here as well. So by and large, and then look at the rain line. This is significant too. Notice the rain line stops right about here through Indiana. So not rain, maybe. Not everyone is going to see it. It'll probably be a very sharp cutoff right through southern Indiana. But the question is, where is it going to be? Snow, well, you can see the snow is pretty much going to say the heaviest snow up to our north. We might hope to see some light snow in the afternoon hours. In fact, GFS is indicating there's a heavy snow up to the north. The GFS indicates that by the time it moves out, we may see some light snow on the backside of the system. By that time, though, folks, I don't think we're going to get anywhere near an inch or a ½ inch out of this. I think it's probably going to be melting as it falls on contact, because it'll be snowing whenever temperatures are in the mid-30s, possibly on Monday afternoon. So that's going to be the questionable aspect of that. I don't think that we're going to see much of any snow accumulation with this. We may see some snow fall from the sky. That'd be about it. It's going to be a wintry mess. But regardless of this, the potential exists there, folks, for a nasty wintry mess, no matter how you look at it. So exactly where this rain snow will be up to our north, where this freezing rain and rain changeover line occurs, folks, we're just going to have to monitor that And I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's going to come down to more of a nowcasting type of event where we're just going to have to see tomorrow afternoon what really plays out at this. But for right now, I would be prepared, folks, if I were you. If we get a freezing rain event of any decent magnitude in there, even a light glaze of freezing rain can wreak havoc on the road and make travel absolutely dangerous. Do I think this is going to be something that keeps us inside for a few days? No, not at all. I think by Monday afternoon, roads will probably be in a lot better shape again over at least a good portion of the area, because I think we're going to warm up into the mid 30s eventually. But you know, I would prepare if you've got plans Sunday evening. You might want to rethink that, and you might want to consider just staying home. It's not a good idea to be out on the roads, especially during freezing rain, because it's going to be even slicker than what snow would be. So, folks, just bear that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the extended forecast, just to give you an idea, too. A little bit of encouragement before we head here. It's cold, folks. We got some temperatures into the low to mid 30s, and by the way, our average high temperature is about 37, 38 degrees. So you can see that we're going to stay pretty well below normal for a good little while, but take a look at this. By the time you get later into the period, nice significant warm up. No, not hot by any means, but warm for January temperatures. Would be some rain and potentially some thunderstorms that would come into there. It's not set in stone yet, but you can see the downward trend comes after that, and it looks like another cold surge could come by the end of the month too. So it's something that we will keep monitoring, folks, but we'll see. Right now it doesn't look like we've got any really below zero temperatures on the way again for a little while. Let's cross our fingers and hope that's gone for the year, but we'll see. Go to southernindianaweather.com, folks. I've updated the 10-day forecast finally. I know it's not been up to date as much this week as I would like to keep it. The flu has gotten me down, but it is all back up to date there on the app and everything, folks. We're going to go up to the low 20s today under the mostly sunny sky. It's going to be a beautiful day. The mess again starts tomorrow, but again, do we go to 32? Do we go to 34? Do we go to 36? Temperatures are going to be absolutely critical here. This 34 may be reached early, but then falls through the evening hours, and by the time dark comes, it could be a freezing rain type of event. Something that we're just going to have to keep an eye on. I do think that we may see some snow showers mix in later on Monday afternoon as the colder air starts to fill into the upper layers. Excuse me, the upper layers of the atmosphere on the back side of this low. We'll have to monitor that. Little, if any, accumulation is what I'm thinking, though, at this point. It looks more like it would melt on contact as we go to the mid-30s. And then beyond that, folks, it's just going to be cold. Still continued cold and slightly below normal until later in the extended period. You see we start to go back up to the 40s, and then shortly after that, the temperatures may reach the 50s with some thunderstorms, but we've got very large questions about that. We'll see. Not set in stone yet by any means. What you can see is noticeably the absence of any winter storms outside of this one. So, winter lovers, I'm sorry. This is just not looking good for snow. My winter forecast, honestly, right now, ain't looking too good, folks. Am I ready to give up on it yet? No, not yet, but it's not looking pretty for snow lovers this year. But I guess the only consolation would be is most everybody was forecasting above normal snowfall. Things just didn't work out. So I'm not the only one that blew the winter forecast, if it is indeed blown. We still have 2 months worth of winter to go, so we'll see. I think there's still some chances that we can get some winter storms in here, but over the next 10 days, outside of the icing event that we're going to see tomorrow, not really looking pretty, folks. Sorry for those of you that love snow. Those of you that don't love snow, you're welcome. All right, that's it for this video update, folks. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite for Southern Indiana Weather. Have a great day. Stay safe. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon when the event starts.